Asiqale ngomthandazo. Baba wethu sikhaya ezulwini namanje ntambama siyakubonga siletha udumo kuwena ukhosi amandla nenkazimulo. Emveni kweviki ebelilide elinezigameko zalo sibonga ukuhlenga kuwena. Nalapho siqala lesi sifundo siyacela uNkulunkulu engcwele mawube nathi sibuze ubukhona bakho uvule indlebe zethu nomqondo wethu kuba siqonde sizwisise lokho okukhuluma kithi namhlanje ngoKristu engcwele siyakhuleka manje uzwe phakathi nephakathi.
Amen.
Siqhubeka kule ndawanyana kaDaniel chapter 3. Sigcine kuphi nje last week? Ukhona usakhumbula? Chapter 11. Sigcine sithini last week? Noma sigcine verse bani?
5 mfundisi.
Sigcine verse?
Asute mfundisi.
25. Ngathi halamuzi kancane kuverse 20.
Yangithi summarize afike egcineni.
All right. Let's begin with chapter 11 anyway. Umalachi 3 verse 16 ubaluleke kakhulu. But sengicabanga ukuthi now sesiyamazi simuzwa kahle. Abanye bathi bazosijoina later. All right. Sigcine verse 30 last week.
Oh, 30.
Verse 30 last week. So qala sirevise yena lo verse 30 as we begin with verse 31. Osethe ukuthi ukuba mutanyana ngoba sengimelulile ngenxa yesigameko sakuleli viki iRussia sihlasela iUkraine umhlaba wonke usuvungama abanye sebekhomenta ukuthi ke this is exactly uDaniel 30 law verse 40. I'm hoping ukuthi I will eventually cover verse 40. I'm not too sure mangibuka a number of slides, but now
Oh, yes.
verse 30 uthe ships of the western coastal will oppose him and he'll lose his heart. Then he will turn back and vent his fury against the Holy Covenant. He will return and show favor to those who forsake the Holy Covenant. That is verse 30. Verse 31, his armed forces will rise up to desecrate the temple. It desecrates the temple, and he will abolish the daily sacrifices, and he will set up the abomination that causes desolation. Then I said, come on, we need to understand a few things kule verse iyodwa. 1, yiphi lenkosi konje sikhuluma ngayo. 2, connection yayo to the temple. 3, we must know the daily sacrifice iphathelene nani okanye yini. And then 4, what is this abomination that causes desolation? And what does desolation mean? Ngokwayo. We're still following.
Yeah.
Nesho maseniqala ukusala. Bengisaqhuma nje uverse 30 last gcine khona. Then uma sesiqala ke lento so far kusakhuluma ingilosi ichazela uDaniel ongazi. Now into yokuqala sitholayo ukuthi this king has a particular interest in the beautiful land. Makuthiwa ke beautiful land, that is Israel. Although he stumbles and falls and never wakes up from his fall or he dies, verse 20 of chapter 11, ulandelwa ngomunye futhi naye owenyusa ama-taxes azifele futhi naye ube ne-interest naye futhi kwi-beautiful land. Wadilana noMesaya ke yena wafa eyifela. So fana loyo uselandelwa ngomunye futhi naye obizwa kuthiwa verse 21, he is a contemptible person who is not of royalty. Akusangenile manje umuntu wasebukhosini boselwa. so kuyisukela umfokazana nje ngoba nakho enomkhaba enolimi ayina nomkhaba enolimi this time wasethatha kubukhosi ngobuqili and ubizwa kuthiwa is a contemptible umuntu onyanyekayo nozondekayo nongathandwa. Silandela lenkosi, who is this king? Number 1 lo samlandela so far. Sitshelwa ngamabutho akhe, he tries to power he rises to power deceitfully, verse 23. Usithatha isihlalo lesi ngobuqili and sisalalele ukuthi uthatha isihlalo ngobuqili hayi lalelisisa kahle. He does what neither his fathers nor his forefathers did. Uma isho njalo ke izama ukuthini iBhayibheli? I know ukuthi iningi lethu libe selibuka liphelele lapha ekuthenini uthathe iloot lena wadistribute inikeza abangani abantu bonke. Yebo kwangizwa nawo yisemkhulu lowo, but okuyikona okubalekile kwangempela la ukuthi ufuna uceba ukuthi akubukudele ithempeli. And then verse 27 uthe 2 kings with their hearts bent on evil will sit at the same table and lie to each other. Baxabulana oqamu, that's what we said last time, ngoba amakhosi amabili lawa azobe ehlezi etafuleni wonke eceba ububi, ekhiqiza ububi enhlizweni zawo, bese ke kodwa eza ngokuthi ayakhohlisana, awatshelana ukuthi ngiyakhohlisa nalena ayithi ngiyakhohlisa, but bakhuluma iqiniso. As abanye benu, I did show this thing, share it with you, what we saw. I did share this with a few of us. I'm sorry, who was I sharing this thing with? But I did share it, and I will share it again. I will include this video. Is a bengiplan ukuyifaka later nyana, but this other one ngizoyinclude manje. Let me share the screen.
What we are very proud of. Anybody here from Canada? Anybody live under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? Where does he stand? What camp is he in? What about anybody here from France? Macron? Listen to this, my friends. What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, certainly penetrates the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young noble leaders of the world. Grateful. First, did you hear that? The man said over half. Listen to this, brothers and sisters. And what we are very proud of now is half of this cabinet knows that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young noble leaders of the world. Grateful.
Lisekhona hlobo zami?
Yebo. Ikhona.
Mfundisi, cela ukubuza uphinde umbuzo mfundisi.
Yes, ma'am.
Bengithi umfundisi uyabuza kodwa umbuza nguzwanga kahle.
Oh, ngithe ukhuluma ngani lo muntu okhulumayo la?
Nginenkinga ke mina mfundisi angizwanga kahle.
Okay. Uthi ukhuluma nge-World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum. So understand?
Yebo.
I-World Economic Forum ihambisana ne-United Nations, uphiko i-Department ye-United Nations. Njengoba ePhalamende lethu kukhona abakwa-Treasury, angithi?
Yebo.
So i-Treasury yakwa-United Nations yini? Yi-World Economic Forum.
Oh, yeah.
So kuyezwakala manje.
Yebo. Yes.
Now, uthi akusiwona wonke amazwe yebo ayingxenye ye-United Nations. There are about 180 something countries abhalisile ukuba ingxenye United Nations. Usethi ke babhizi bapenetrate ama-governments awo wonke umhlaba. Kukhona la ibala khona abale i-Russia, abale i-France, abale i-Britain, let alone i-America. All of these governments, abale ne-South Africa, all of these governments, kuba khona abantu be-United Nations ababa yingxenye yalama governments. Usezwakala so far? So, nizothi nina nibuswa yiphalamende lenu la eSouth Africa, nibone upresident uCyril Ramaphosa nimnake nigade yena, kanti no niphethwe i-United Nations. Ake ngakhuluma ke ekuqaleni ngokuthi isilo, umfanekiso wesilo lona ozokwenza ukuthi isilo sikhulume ungubani. Abantu abaningi bethi no, it's when the world the Protestant churches unite with the state to form Sunday law, then obesokuba umfanekiso wesilo. Ngathi no, manikhumbula kahle ngathi no, don't look at that, ngoba umfanekiso wesilo kumele ufanane nesilo ngqo, kodwa ube wona ungesona isilo. So isilo yini? Umbusi onombuso, angithi. So kwakhiweke le United Nations kusho i-America. I did touch on that one when we're doing Istanbul, but I know Tsenkosli. Now, this is what you are seeing playing out now. Every government is under the United Nations. So, if Brazil, Brazil, Russia, Ukraine, bangaphansi kwe-Brazil, ne-France, bangaphansi kwe-Brazil, but bangaphansi kwe-United Nations. So, njengamanje babhizi bazama ukuthi kuphunywa kanjani kwi-coronavirus, nayo eyakhiwe i-strategy. Now, ikhona manje kuzoba khona a biggest reset. Kuzoba sokuthiwa ke ngoba sokusuka le nqasho lena entsha eRussia ne-Ukraine, so that wonke amazwe ke kuzoshintshwa indlela yomnotho wawo. But that's another study. I didn't mean to get into that one. Let me leave you hanging there. We'll talk that one on another side. Angiqedele lesi sanamhlanje ke istudy. Nase ngisiphethe namhlanje. Yezwakala lento engizama ukuyisho?
Yezwakala mfundisi.
All right. Bengisathe 2 kings will sit at the same table, bent on evil. They'll be lying to each other, as Ukraine was and Russia was lying to Ukraine, but that were being lied into even right now. So more than 600 Romasosha say Russia, Usafe only a few say Ukraine. You can't imagine that. That's politics. That's propaganda, war propaganda. Don't even go into it. But we're here. Clearly then, what are these 2 kings? What were these 2 kings lying about? They were lying about the prophecies of the end time. How shall we deceive people to believe that ayikho lento into ebalekile ukuthi abazwe thina. That's the main thing. Verse 28 ubesethi ke yena sechaza ukuthi iking lena asikhuluma ngayo is a king of the north, is a king of the north. And sekhumbule ukuthi Rome, when it attacked Syria, I did explain that last week. Engathi impela beningekhohlwe bakithi. When we talk these things, yes, let them sit in your mind. Uma Rome ihlasela Syria, Rome technically it became the king of the north. So ngelilodwa le king eplothayo evil nale king ene interest kwi beautiful land. Yiphi le king is a king of the north. Don't forget that. Asiqhubeke ne-study sethu. As this king returns to his own country in verse 28, and he returns with great wealth, tell me, senake nawubona yini umbuso ocebe njengeRoma? Nisekhona?
Ngikhona mina mfundisi.
Umbuso ocebe njengeRoma? Okay. Remember ke, le wealth ngoba iningi kakhulu, iyona isizathu sokuthi abe nayo beningi kangaka. Useyisaphaza uyinikeza noma ubani mnawo uyabribe ngayo lo mcebo wakhe. All right? Remember, as he returns home with this great wealth, we are told that his heart will be set against the holy covenant. Verse 28. Inhliziyo yakhe kuphi? Ikwi-holy covenant. What is the holy covenant? Isivumelwano esingcwele isiphi? Sitholakala kwi-sanctuary. Yingakho kubalekile ukuthi makukhumale sezethi awukwazi uku-understand i-sanctuary services ungenaso isizathu esanele sokuthi understand i-sanctuary services. Ngoba everything hinges around the sanctuary and its services. Yilesi sivumelwano engiyosenza noyindlu kaIsrayeli lezo nsuku. That's a holy covenant. Uthini uNkulunkulu lapho Jeremiah 31? I will write my laws in their hearts. I will be their God. They will be my people. His heart is set against that holy covenant. Are you getting it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, verse 30 again. Okay, before verse 30, we are told, verse 28 again, which is, he will take an action against it. What is the it there? It is the holy covenant. And then he will return to his own country, having taken an action against the holy covenant. Then verse 30 again, again. Remember, verse 31. But we need this background. With it, then he will turn back and vent his fury against the holy covenant. Uyabona kaphume emlonyeni inhliziyo yakhe lapha nokuleya holy covenant. Now, as ebuyela kubo nengcebo eningi, inhliziyo yakhe kuphi? Ikuleya holy covenant. Are you with me there? And then he will return and show favor. Uyamkhumbula lo mcebo omkhulu kuverse 28, as he returned with great wealth to his own country. Angithi? Now, when he comes back, ubuyelani manje? Ubuyela this holy covenant. Ekuphi? Ekwi beautiful land. Angithi? Ekuphi? Ekwi fortress. He will show favor to those who forsake what? The holy covenant. So about why singafani siqhumele verse 31. Usiyabribe manje those uma uyena uyeka lento hayi mina nginasinga kuhle kumqashi uzothi hayi yabona mase njena uyeka ukukhonza ungasebenzi ngesabatha ngizokwenyusela esikhundleni. Promotion is yours, but the only thing of what moyeke yenze nje hlukana nalo uNkulunkulu wakho. That is what was happening there. So those who forsake the Holy Covenant bathola ama-bribes banyuselwe ekhundleni kuba izinto ezinhle kukhulunywa nakahle ngabo. Why? Because his heart is bent against the Holy Covenant. Yes.
So, bengisacela
It
ukubuza
is.
mfundi.
Yes.
I'm sorry mfundisi manje uma ngabe ngibe kube khona lokho kudideka okuncane. I-Holy Covenant ise north.
No. Beautiful land. Beautiful land.
Beautiful land.
U-Israel esikhuluma ngaye sis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ngisho ukuthi ena lo angazi uzokubeka kanjani mhlambe ngisazocabanga ukuthi uzokubeka kanjani.
No, khumbula kanje. Lesikhathi kukhulunywa nge-King of the South ne-King of the North, we always said uJuda bengase South kodwa emaphakathi nendawo kudwengulwana ngaye.
Okay, no, sengiya-understand. Sengiya-understand ukuthi uphakathi nendawo ngiyabonga.
All right. Now, ngiyacabanga ukuthi ke seniyabona manje ukuthi it is against this background that verse 31 continues his narrative. But it is now easy to understand the Holy Covenant and why it is hated. This verse confirms what Daniel 8 verse 24 ekugcineni kwakhe umayethi, he will destroy the mighty men and the holy people.
Yeah.
So kuyaqaqa. I'm glad maseqaqa kanje.
Yeah.
Now verse 32. Verse 32. Let me read verse 32. Sim understand kahle. Ngoba siyam understand verse 31. With flattery he will corrupt those who have violated the covenant. What is a covenant there? The Holy Covenant.
The Holy Covenant.
Everything hinges around this Holy Covenant. This Holy Covenant. Why ezonda kangaka le Holy Covenant? It is the covenant. I will be their God. They will be my people. And he doesn't want that.
Yeah.
Then, verse 32, usho njalo ukuthi, but people who know their God will firmly resist him. Verse 32, Lord. Yize kuzwa nama-bribes. Abantu bekhushulelwe ekhundleni, abantu bethola imali, befumbathiswa envelope. All right? Don't worry.
Yeah.
If you know your God, you will resist this iniquity firmly. So verse 32 is suggesting that bribes and gifts were offered to those who were ready to defy the Jewish norm and join the desecration. As kunama bribes even today, abantu bazwakala kangconywana, abantu bathandwa kangconywana, abantu baduma kangconywana uma kudefaywa imithetho kaNkulunkulu nebandla likaNkulunkulu. Ivangeli eselishunyayelwa namhlanje, ivangeli lefeminism. Lalelani hlobo zami, I'm sorry to put it like that, but it is just like that. If feminism does not have eternal gospel and is not eternal gospel. Mabe ngifuna ukusheshe ngidume nami ngaziwa umhlaba wonke. I could be preaching this gospel, but angifise kuduma, angifise kuthandwa. I'm not making a church here. No. I'm just presenting the scriptures as they are. The Bible Study Tools agrees with us when it says Jews corrupted by good words and fair speeches, corrupted by gifts and presents. They became his tools to do his pleasure and were his instruments to seduce the other Jews to renounce their religion and give in to his idolatry. Nina abantu bo Facebook ngizokhumbula ukuthi sekuvele ku Facebook ukuthi that Adventist president yase Zambia was not Adventist, but after all, even though he master guide. So be careful of lento ahleze isho khumalo ukuthi angathatha kunike gqokiswa abantu who are not actually master guides. Le master guide. That's what I was talking about. And you see now, you see it happen in your front. Angikho lapho ngila. UMatthew had a commentary, uthi kwi-commentary yakhe. The king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah. The letters were saying they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid or forsake the burnt offerings and the sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple. Yena ifuneka phambili. Khohlwani ilama sacrifices nina. Ake niyeke lama sacrifices nama offerings nalama drink offerings forget about. But yini leyo ngempela? And abantu are being commanded even today to not to do that. Why ke iningi lethu alifundi nokuyifundi sanctuary services. Iningi lethu have gone back to their classes emabandleni alo and forsaken this study. Why? It's not because of anything wrong esiyenzayo. It's because the enemy is bent on, he hates this, what we're doing with passion. We're exposing him here. Angazi. We're encouraged to know that not all Jews yielded to this insult to the God of heaven. Akusona wonke amaJuda ahambisana naye kodwa. Siyatshelwa ngalokho siyaziswa. Then iqhubeka ingilosi ithi, but the people who know their God will firmly resist him. We are told that many of the Jews, indeed, some willingly and others through fear of punishment, they obeyed the king's command. Yes, they did obey the king's command. Others through fear, others willingly. Just willingly. Verse 33, uyena usosehlukanisa phakathi kwalabo abahlakaniphile nalabo abayiziwula. Let me dare to say today, if you leave this study and abandon this study, you are not wise at all. I know others are doing that through intimidation, others out of fear,
others willingly.
But it is okubalekile ukuthi, are you wise or are you foolish? Ukhumbule no Christmas esefika ukhuluma ngeintombi eziyishuma ngithi.
Yeah.
Zozela zonke zenjani? Zalala all 10 of them, but 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. Akhulume nge-foolish builder who built his house on sand, and a wise builder who built his house on the rock. And that rock is Jesus Christ. No, I'm just explaining this thing, young Tata. We believe that those who resisted him are those described there as those who know their God.
Mm.
Then I'm saying a similar incident is soon going to play out, maybe at our own time. And let me even say, it is playing out even now. Let's go back. UPG Temple Otiena, verse 33 seems to refer to the Waldenses who were persecuted for their stern faith. We are inclined, we are tempted to agree with him there. I didn't say we agree with him. I said we are tempted, we're inclined to agree with him. The Ellicott's commentary says, it appears that the sufferings of those that understand would instruct others. It appears that they would themselves profit from their sufferings. Laba abahlakaniphile abashushiswayo bahlakanipha ngoba baxwayisa abanye, as we are doing in this series. That is wisdom. And you will be persecuted, you will be hated for being here. Says what, right? And that suffering, yona ezokwenza ikuneze guarantee yokuthi no, I must be on the right. Why am I hated like this if ngenza into right? It means I'm right. Kakadu Satan does not want us to be on the side of our Lord. One cannot help but notice that the words of the angel here, the angel itheni, some of the wise will stumble. As they stumble so that they may be refined, so that they will be purified and made spotless until the time of the end. Oh, personally, I take courage in this verse. Pimina itile verse, even though I stumble and fall at times, that is making me even wiser if I learn from my mistakes and avoid repeating them the next time. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8 verse 28, Lord. Everything works together for good. Now, ukuthi siyashushiswa, ukuthi siyathuka, ukuthi sibizwa ngani, for now, I know that is working, that is polishing me. Uthi omunye umbhali ekhuluma ebekisa ngepensela lomsizi. Uthi the more belisharpenisha, belifaka nasingana emshinini, lihlubuka isikhumba salo nasinga, but bebalicija ngoba angeke libhale lisenjoba liphuma esitolo ungavelile umsizi ngaphandle. So konke lokho ke okuzokwenzeka kithi, let us remember, it is only making us better and preparing us for the kingdom. Ukhona nombuzo so far? Asedluleke. Verse 32. Yes, ma'am.
Lenkosi lokho ekukhulunywa ngayo kusewubani igama layo, uPompey uba?
Angalivezi.
Ngiyaqolisa ubuyisele mu.
Khumbula ukuthi uPompey ubesekuqaleni, and sekuze sesedlulile nje last week lapho sisakhuluma ngesikhathi sikaJesu. Wayengekho uPompey ngesikhathi sikaJesu angithi. Uthathe uhlamvu lwemali uJesu wathi elikabani lelikhanda. Kwathiwa elikabani?
Usisi.
Sesilapho manje. Yebo, sesedlulile. All right. Verse 36, so the king will do as he pleases. That's number one. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god and will say unheard of things against the God of gods. He will be successful until the time of wrath is completed. For what has been determined must take place. All right? I guess we'll again verse 36. What has been determined must take place. Who determines it? It's the God of heaven.
God, yes.
That's the one who determines. Now, let's dissect the verse. The king will do as he pleases. Sike sabona lamagama. Angithi?
Yeah.
Verse 16. Uthe, the invader will do as he pleases.
As it pleases.
Msakhumbula ukuthi ngathini? Ngathi verse 16 njoba ethi the invader useqala uintroduce another kingdom. Angithi?
Yes.
Aphika mangam. Yes. More than that, he will exalt and magnify himself. Uyaphakama lona manje. Ukhona owaphakama konje ku-Isaiah ngithi? NakuHezekiah.
Lucifer.
Yebo. Now, this king, ingakho ngithi mina, manikhumbula kahle. Excuse me. Lenkosi akusiyona nje inkosi as such, but uLucifer. And isambulo sichaze kathi sathi uLucifer unikeze isihlalo sakhe sobukhosi kule nkosi. Now lenkosi ayikwazi ukwenza ngenye indlela ngaphandle kokwenza as instructed. Who instructs him? It is Lucifer. If this were an ordinary human being, ubengeke athi magnify himself above every god and say unheard of things against the God of gods. If it were an ordinary human being, would not do that. But because abantu masebethwele, unkosikazi ufunde lapha ku Facebook ukuthi omunye umuntu ebethwele lento abayithwale ngayo sifuna ukuthi makanikele ngenkosikazi yakhe. That man of God isidalwa sikaThixo lesi sibe sesithi ke sona cha ngcono ugwinye mina nyoka asale umkakhe. Now bengizama ukuveza ukuthi abantu bethwele hey benza izinto ongakuyicabange ukuthi angasho kanjani umuntu ukuthi kulungile ngizobulala ingane yami ngoba ngifuna imali. What is money? Ngoba ngifuna udumo. What is fame? Angiright ngadumile nginje. I'm okay. All right. Especially, how can I say anything? Nginthumelele ivideo yalona a comedian kwenza amahlaya obehlekisa ngoJesu waquleka wafahlazeka ikhanda wakraka isikali. Abaningi I'm sure bebecawa ukuthi why isithumelela lento. Bengizama ukuveza ukuthi my Jesus still lives even today, and he will not simply accept comedians to make a mockery of his name. Okay, siyakwemukela nomndai. Now okubalekile la ukuthi God said he will be successful in what he does. And less success yakhe is limited. He will be successful until the time of the time of the wrath is completed. So let's cut a kobocha in successful. Ugcwalisa umgodla wani wolaka. Aphinde enze lo abe successful ugcwalisa umgodla wolaka and mase seligcwele ulaka. And sivela kulona ku Revelation. I'm sure in England selikhohliwe. Ngizama ukuveza ukuthi these books are they're intertwined, they're interrelated. You can't separate and really separate one from another. They complement. They are inseparable, but they complement one another. So before we begin with the verse, and let's compare it with let's compare it with the fourth kingdom. That one you know now. You know that one for the 10 horns, the 10 horns
The division.
Good.
The 10 horns and the toes, it shows the division.
It is one kingdom. Thank you, Sis Bo. It is one kingdom. And yet the kingdom is a horn stands for a leader. It's in a leaders. The more my leaders in one kingdom, that spells for what? For a division in the kingdom. Unlike with Babylon, when there was only one head of God and of gold, and everybody else was to belong to this kingdom. But now, my friends, my English, my Americans, that means we are a divided nation. Even ANC is so much divided. I'm getting that. That is weakening the ANC itself. I'm not saying that because Nilandili politic. I'm just making an example, a division here. All right. I said Lulege la pogetin. And Daniel 8, verse 9. It set itself up to be as great as the prince of the host. Lola pondo ngani wabona isithombe labantu uphondo olusuka kwezenye impondo. Lwaseluya Landa liya khona ilapho kwa Israel khona kwaJuda ngoba Egypt that was the south, but south ithathe indawanyana yakwaJuda lapha. All right. So and that horn will set itself even as the prince of the host. Who is the prince of the host? Who is the host? That is the God the Father. Who is the prince? That is his son, Jesus Christ. So he sets himself up even up to the level of uselingana no Jesus Christ. And sakufunda lokho kwi-great controversy ukuthi he was jealous of in status sika Jesus Christ. So it took away the daily sacrifices from him. Who is him? The prince of the host. And the place of his sanctuary was brought low. Why singasenayo ki sanctuary namhlanje? It is because it was brought low. What does brought low mean? It was desecrated. It was made filthy and dirty. So khumbula ngesikhathi sika Kristu efika ethempelini bebhizi bethengisa beshintshasanisa ngemali zomnikelo ngoba phela at that time umuntu wayengasuki nje nekhaya aqhube imvu yakhe kuyiwa kude. By the way, bayeke mntaka Khumalo qhubeka. It should be remembered that at the very beginning we had said this book is about the controversy between God and the forces of darkness, or between God and Lucifer. Yes, a network is over inkinga enkulu bona abantu bengena bephuma ngoba hayi sithe ukushuba lesi sifundo sanamhlanje. Sithe ukushuba, yes. Asedluleke la the little horn. All right, we want to say to you, Satan himself is taking over the throne in this part of chapter 11. He is disguised as the Roman emperor. He is disguised as Caesar, and angafiki ke ngizokwenyuka now, ngizokwenyukela. But we are not talking about angifisi ukuthi sibe nomqondo ukuthi sikhuluma ngamaRoma la sikhuluma ngamaRoma sikhuluma ngombuso wesine uhijackwa nguLucifer and kuba sangathi umbuso kanti hayi uLucifer mbala uqobo lwakhe. We assert that it is for this reason that the moment this little horn takes the throne, judgment sits in heaven. Note that this horn isn't much into politics, but into religion and holy things as well. Kumbula, kuthe, besifunda ukulapho verse 30, no 31, no 32, uthi, he set his heart on kuphi, kwi-holy covenant. And wahlasela ini? Wahlasela sanctuary. That's what we mean by saying, no, he's not that much into politics. He's that very much into religion. Yes, you note the parallels in Isaiah 14, verses 13 to 15. Mighty, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the most heights of the sacred mountain. And sifundile ukuthi this little horn is set itself up above anything that is being worshipped, according to the King James Version. We are saying there is a grave mistake that anyone can make, and that grave mistake is to read this verse in the past only and fail to see the futurist application in it. A clue is what we read, what we have just said is found in this verse. Until the time of wrath is completed in verse 36. That's a clue. So don't only look at it in the past, also forecast it to the future. Whose wrath is this verse talking about? We contend, we put it to you that the Bible talks about one wrath, and that is God's wrath only. In Zephaniah 1 verse 4, it will be kindled against the idolaters and those who bow down from the rooftops to the images. In Isaiah 13 verse 9, God's day of wrath has fierce anger and is cruel. Take also verse 13 there. In Revelation 14 verses 9 and 10 and 19, anyone who receives the mark of the beast will face this wrath of God. In Revelation 16 verses 1 and 19, it will be poured out on earth, targeting especially Babylon. And if you are part of Babylon, you will not escape. In Revelation 19 verse 15, it will be directed at the nations who refuse to obey Christ. It doesn't matter. They say, but I know that it does matter. Who is this king? Let me answer that question now. Abanye bathi lenkosi Antiochus Epiphanes IV. Okay? Let's test that theory. Ukuthi ba right yini. All right? There are three main views akhuluma ngo Antiochus Epiphanes IV. First one is a Roman view in which kingdoms have the sequence of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and then Rome. The second one is a Greek view which has the sequence of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Media, and Persia, and Greece, or lastly. And another view has the second Greek view, it's Babylon, Medo-Persia, Alexander the Great's kingdom, and Alexander's feet of iron, plus successors. Angimazi Alexander enenyawo zensimbi nobumba. But I'm saying I'm just presenting the theories to you, or the schools of thought. You will make up your mind. I'm not directing you to say, choose this or not that. No, I will never do that. It is not our principle in this ministry to direct people what to do. We only expose you to what is the truth. What you do with it, it's your own business. So I said, depending on the school of thought you subscribe to, you may choose, but only one must be true. All right, let's say then it is, let's take the last two schools of thought will result in the chart that is on the right. Here is a chart. The last two schools of thought, they will give you this chart. And we are born Alexander's feet of clay. Nanze extend nasengiyazongena endaweni yeRome. So ayikho iRome lapha ya. And once ke wathi ke ulandela these last two schools of thought, then you are denying uDaniel 2. Once you deny uDaniel 2, it means asekho ini ikhanda legolide, isifuba nengalo zesiliva, isisu namathanga ethusi nemlenze yensimbi. Akukho kuwena lokho. Awukho ke nombuso wesihlanu, lo mbuso wetshe, umbuso engulindele ngam sondezu suku. Yes, engathi uNkulunkulu ngalisondeza lolu suku umbuso wakho mawufike. And before umbuso wakho ufike, intando yakho mayenziwe la emhlabeni, yenziwe yimi njengoba yenziwe ekhaya ezulwini. That's my prayer. That's what Christ taught me to pray. So with such a glaring misinterpretation of the scriptures explained the meaning, there is no hope of understanding this thing if you misinterpret such a glaring, a minor thing. This is minor to us because we have read. We have no choice but to believe that this was developed. All these schools of thought were developed to deceive God's people. And we are exposing them here. If you don't want them to be exposed, you will do like others are doing, they leave. Take Antiochus Epiphanes' theory. The proponents of this theory, they partially reject the four world empires that end up with the stone empire. They also tend to follow a similar route with Nebuchadnezzar, that is to say, of not understanding the stone kingdom. So if you follow that route and you accept this theory, Antiochus, you know where you will end up. Once you miss Daniel 2, my friend, it is very unlikely that you ever will catch up in Daniel 7, let alone Daniel 8, let alone Daniel 9. Angisakwazi ukukhuluma ke ngo-11 no-12. That's too much. Both encyclopedias, Britannica and Wikipedia, they declare him as the Seleucid king, Antiochus Epiphanes IV. He was a Seleucid king according to these encyclopedias, not according to Khumalo. You can read about it there. Nakia, Britannica, Seleucid king, Nalian, Seleucid king. It's there. I've put it in for you. I've made things easy for you. That he did persecute the Jews does not make him to be the little horn, though. When we accept that he was a Greek king, then he is not attached to Romans at all. That would be the historicist approach. That's what most churches, 98% Christian churches, ministers, they teach that izinto zakudala lezi asangeni thina kuzo izinto zeTestament endala, because they don't want you to get the truth. They don't want you to be saved at the end. You must perish with them. Why should you? Why should you really? On this topic, we are saying now why Antiochus Epiphanes IV is not this king. We are giving you reasons now why he is not Antiochus IV. One, we assert that accepting Antiochus IV Epiphanes as a little horn inevitably dismisses Rome as the fourth world empire, as per Daniel chapter 2. Early church fathers, if you read church history, kukhona into esiyibiza ngama-church fathers. Josephus, one of them, and others, church fathers, they taught that Rome was the fourth world empire. Then that is in agreement with Daniel chapter 2 and chapter 7. George Knight, one church father, he further explains that Rome in its pagan and papal phases has likewise been said to be the little and later exceedingly great horn of Daniel 8. It's quoted there on Questions on Doctrine, page 319. You can Google that book and get it and read it yourself. Other scholars credit Porphyry with this view of Antiochus as the little horn. According to George R. Knight, esimkhothile aphezulu, Porphyry was not a Christian exegete, and he died in 304. As a result, he wouldn't know what Christians ought to know. We accept George's assertion that this theory was devised not to expound, but to discredit and deny the prophetic elements of the book of Daniel. I'm putting things on the plane today. Kwenza ukuthi uma ngavukanga sasekuseni igazi lenu lingabuzwa phezu kwami. Putting things plain. Kukhona isikole, a school or the group of people ababizwa ngokuthiwa ama-Jesuits. These Jesuits are Roman Catholic theologians. Mawufundile inesengana ku Facebook, this Zambian SDA president ukhulumile ngama-Jesuits wachaza na ukuthi asebenza kanjani. It's not my time, my business to explain Jesuits. I'm not a Jesuit. I'm not their fan. No, I'm not their fan. And I will never be their fan. They argue in matters of theology on behalf of the Roman Catholic Church. Clearly, we accept this reason for this theory that it mainly was a pagan's counterattack upon the inroads of Christian teachings in the pagan world. This was perpetuated by the Jesuits. Clearly, it seeks to discredit Daniel as the author of the book of Daniel, and mainly that he was not a prophet of God. That's what the Jesuits teach you. We shall henceforth stipulate very compelling reasons why we believe Antiochus IV Epiphanes is not the little horn of Daniel 8 and is not this king of the north that we are talking about in this 11th chapter of Daniel. Reason number one, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, he belonged to the third Grecian empire and not the fourth. Number two, the fourth beast had 10 horns, whereas the third beast had its horn broken up, one horn broken up and developed into 4 horns. and in its place, all right, a little horn grew up. Antiochus IV Epiphanes did not rise after the 10 kings or the horns of the fourth beast in Daniel 7 verse 24. Number 4, he was not diverse from his predecessors. He was not different from his predecessors, as it is stated in Daniel 7 verse 24. Number 5, there are virtually not 3 horns or kings plucked out by Antiochus when he rose to power. Number 6, he was called the Great only by his father, who was called the Great. He wasn't the Great himself. His father was the Great. Number 7, his persecution did not, as claimed, last 3.5 years or in the division of times, as in Daniel 7 verse 25. He did not prevail against the saints until the judgment and the kingdom was given to the saints. The saints are not ruling yet. They are not in their kingdom. I'm one of them by the blood of Jesus. So where is Antiochus? He's long dead. So you can't tell me it is him. This needs people who read, who know their scripture. The 9th reason, I'll give you 11 and then stop. The kingdom that followed after his was Roman. So it's not God's kingdom, because God's kingdom will never pass or will never be divided, as we're living in the divided kingdom right now. We have said that. Number 10, some assign the kingdom of God or kingdom of Christ to the first advent. They clearly are in the wrong, because Christ is still going to come the second time. Only after that will he establish his kingdom that will last forever. I'm waiting for the second coming of Christ, and I'm waiting. Uthe asot maskhuleka baba wethu sezulwini maningcolise igama lakho, umbuso wakho mawufike. And if sowufikile ngoKristu, wengeke asitshela ukuthi asikhuleke ukuthi umbuso wakhe mawufike. Number 11, looking at Daniel 8, the specifications thereof that are not met by Antiochus the Epiphanes IV. 1, it works exceedingly great as per Daniel 8 verse 9. 2, his push to the south or Egypt was stopped by a mere word of the Roman officer. 3, there is no record of him standing against the Prince of Princes anywhere in history. 4, Antiochus was not broken without a hand. There is no suggestion of anything miraculous or mysterious about either his failure with the Jews or his death. So we believe, with such a sea of evidence against Antiochus Epiphanes IV, no one will deceive you anymore. If you are deceived, we're still on verse 36, my friends. Still on verse 36. Okay, let me see which samba siphela kuphi namhlanje. Sesiyoqala kulesi slide. Let me entertain any questions and or comments that you might be having for now. All right, asikhumbule lokhu okubalekile. Why sibuyele emuva safunda le ncwadi kaDaniel? Ibaluleke kakhulu ngani? Bese sifinyelele kwi sanctuary and atonement, sanctuary services. Sathola lapho ukuthi iningi lethu liba nenkinga, liba ne-challenge yoku-understanda i-sanctuary services nokubaluleka kwayo. Why? Because bathi into eTestament endala sisadlula kuyona yayishadow, and yet iphethe ukuthi wenzani uKristu namhlanje ezulwini for you and me. Why bengenayo le information? Because they neglected to know ukuthi i-sanctuary was desecrated and kumele mayibe reinstated, ibe cleansed, And what does it mean to cleanse the sanctuary? How was it cleansed then? And how is God going to clean it now? So, a covenant, sibonile kule Saturday 11, ilaphana kwi-sanctuary. And sibonile ukuthi it's not everybody who participates in the sanctuary, who officiates, let me say, who officiates in the sanctuary. It's only a few appointed and anointed by God himself. So, ngizama ukuveza ukubaluleka kwesifundo se-sanctuary services. Questions? And or comments?
Ngiyacela ukuza ukuthi le mpi le yonke lento eyenzekayo lamakhosi abekwayo alwe nomthetho kaNkulunkulu nokungcolisa ithempeli. Yimpi lena kusho ukuthi kufuna ngamanye singakhohlwa ukuthi yimpi le phakathi kaNkulunkulu noSathane. Isuka phezulu ekulahlweni kaSathane isaqhubeka njalo.
Uqedile ungethola. Anyone who targets and persecutes you and fights you for the law of God is not on the side of God, is on the side of the enemy of God. Uzothi omunye hawu ungasho kanjani kumfundisi wami ukuthi is on the side of the enemy of God. Lalela, uChrist wambona uSathane kuPeter. But get it behind me, Satan, esho kuPeter. Wayingasho ukuthi uPeter uSathane kodwa wabona ukuthi uSathane usengena ngoPeter. Awusekho imbozo.
Kusho ukuthi umfundisi kufuneka siqaphele le pomp esikhona emabandleni ethu. Lezinto nje ezenzayo kufuneka ubonakala ukuthi mina ngenza kahle ilokhuzana mhlambe into ebengiyiphethe noma ake nje mhlambe unekumsebenzi wenze kahle kube kuhle sikubuke zonke lezi zinto ukuthi ukhona yini uJesu phakathi la. Asesi advertiser thina siyiveza thina.
Uqedile ungethola. Akusiwena okhulumayo lana kukhuluma umoya kaNkulunkulu okuwe.
Hayi siyabonga.
Any more question and or comment? Thank you, friends. We'll begin on 22 next time, so that sikwazi ukuxhuma lo 23 and then move over to 43. Yeah. It is prudent ukuthi sikwahlukanise kwenza ukuthi si-understande kahle. Yize ke, let us pray. Sothobe. Siyabonga kakhulu ihlobo zami, Thixabe nani, anibusise, and nginifisela into eyodwa ukuthi niphepho lakini oluzayo. As long as you avoid the wrath, I'm happy. God be with you. Bye-bye.